Can you summarize why you didn't mean Kyle was an anti-Semite? Because he's not an anti-Semite. Kyle Kalinske unloads on Vaush, quote, "I'm right and everyone knows it." I assume that's what I said and not what Kyle Kalinske said. This sounds like something that I would say. I assume this is Kyle's foreign policy as it relates to Israel and Yemen. I never really know how to deal with stuff like this because what I've seen on the online left right now is something with regards to the Houthis. It's something approximating a state of hysteria. There are some other issues that have been like this, but this one's pretty bad. It's like people don't even respond to the arguments that I've made, or they just say stuff that's objectively incorrect. And I don't mean that in like a debate, bro, like, ha, you're objectively wrong. I mean, like, they say things that are like, according to the Houthis, not even correct. You know, like people claiming that they're only going after Israeli ships or whatever, and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, it's one of those utility things as well. Like, how do I benefit from engaging with this? Like, do I potentially lose Kyle Kalinske as like a friend or a compatriot in future issues? I don't think I was that like mean to him or critical of him in the video. I was more mean to Hassan than I was to him, because Hassan has been way like more interpersonally bad to me than Kyle has. Did you reach out to talk? I don't usually reach out to talk to people because I'm just not that social of a person. I don't like it. My worry is that it always comes across like drama farming, right? Where it's like, huh, I've identified a flaw in your talking points. Would you like to discuss this? And I don't, because I think I think this is a consequence of the Cat Black thing, remember? Where I saw Cat Black vague posting about me on the whole, like, tactical sexism thing with J.K. Rowling. So I reached out and DM'd her and talked to her in DMs for like an hour, and she just would not engage with me. And then she unloaded a bunch of shit on me the next day with like a 1,000 tweet long thread. So it's like, I don't know how much benefit there is to directly engaging with people. Trauma response. Yeah. It's my deep. I need like critical race. Wait, cock and ball torture. What's the thing called? Cognitive behavioral therapy. There we go. Sorry. There's a lot of acronyms out there. Though obviously, like, Kyle Kalinske is a cool dude and Cat Black's a piece of shit. So that's a pretty meaningful distinction between the two of them. I mean, I guess we'll watch it, you know? Critical cock and ball theory? Yeah. The Vanguard guys clipped out the part about you saying he's not anti-Semitic and highlighted the part where you said the idea Israel controls everything is anti-Semitic. So the framing made it seem like you called Kyle anti-Semitic directly. It might be worth reaching out to clear that up. Ah, man, it's so much effort to clear up other people's bad faith clipping of me, you know? It's like, no matter how responsible you are, if people are interested in misframing what you've said, it's always possible to do that. There's no way to frame every sentence every time in a way that can't be misinterpreted if people deliberately clip it out of context, you know? Especially because I do this live. Like, if I had a script, if I could, like, plan it all out, then, like, maybe I could super carefully, like, every sentence contains a qualifier. But obviously, that's just not realistic in a live format. And that would also be a pretty, like, unfair expectation to begin with. Kyle also knows Vaush doesn't say that. Well, I hope so, you know? All right. Let me live.
And it's just stupid. We're not children. Let's stop playing this game. He understands exactly what I meant. He understands I'm not anti-Semitic. He gets all of that. But look, bottom line is, I think with a guy like Vaush, he's a YouTube master, so he does like the whole kayfabe thing and like.
Yeah, well, hold on, you got more subs than me, man. Don't talk yourself down. And I hate kayfabe.
Like, I'm the one voice of reason on the left, and I will set everybody straight, and that's his whole shtick. And hey, he's welcome to do that shtick, but let's not get it twisted about like if the statement was too far, if the statement was anti-Semitic. That's nonsense. He knows exactly what I meant. And I said what I meant, and I would say it again, and I'm right, and everybody knows
it. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit.
I don't remember the exact thing that Kyle Kalinske said. Hopefully the video shows it again, so I can, like, you know, be specific or whatever.
About the Houthis' recent controversy. I figured we could just play a couple seconds of a recent video of yours just so I don't misquote you.
That's
and
Kyle.
I want to get into the response to that and your response to the response. But yeah, this is what you said about the Houthis.
Look, I'm going to say this.
Wouldn't it be easier to just talk to me directly? Doesn't this feel a bit odd? I don't know. I've talked to the Vanguard guys twice and Kyle multiple times. I feel if there's could you reach out and ask? If you don't want to make me if you don't want me to make content out of it, I don't know. I don't know. I'm right here, you know. The Vanguard wants the views. Well, talking with me directly would probably also boost the views. Pretty sure they would say the same thing to you. Sure, but there is a difference between someone in chat linking me a Kyle Kalinske video and me reacting to it a bit, and them having Kyle Kalinske on, and then going over my video, going over his video. Like, I feel like there's more deliberation there. Probably a little easier to just, like, talk to me, but I don't know.
Is straightforward and as simply as possible. And this will be controversial, but it's true, which is why I'm going to say it. The Houthis are correct. The Houthis are right. In fact, you can argue they are the ones who are trying to uphold international law here. When they say, oh, you're going to do a genocide and nobody's going to do anything to try to stop it, well, let's do the bare minimum that we can and try to block trade with you. What happened as a result of that? Okay, the insurance rates for the ships in Israel went up. Sometimes they have to take a different, much longer route to get to Israel. Oh, man.
So just as a reminder, because I know a lot of people don't know, and I still get emails about this, my issue with what the Houthis are doing is, for one, like, just at the face of things, firing missiles, drones, and storming civilian merchant vessels is kind of, I don't know, a mean thing to do a bit. But also, international maritime trade is like a foundational, like, it's a piece of infrastructure that secures the modern world. We over here in the West would see an increase in the cost of our imports, but in people in the developing world where they already can barely afford the imports they need to keep their population fed, an increase in the cost of grain, shipping, or anything like that could be incredibly destructive to them. Not being able to use the Red Sea for transport would, I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars of transport every year that would have to have its, like, if piracy is back on the open seas, or anything that involves, like, the indiscriminate targeting of mercantile trade, that means insurance, security, and transportation costs go up. You have to take longer routes. You have to, like, worry more about security. Insurance goes up. It makes trade more expensive. And if the only thing that affected was Israel, I wouldn't have an issue with it, because that would functionally be a blockade. But it's not. We've already seen that it's leading to people taking the longer route around Africa. This leads to increased cost, an increased cost in just trade in general, which is massively, like, disproportionately negative in its effect on poorer countries. You know, like, people say, oh man, you just care about money more than lives. Okay, but, like, money buys food, which is lives, right? Like, let's not, you know, let's not be juvenile here. It's a piece of, like, infrastructure that's just way too destructive. It would be like if some grave injustice was happening in a city and your response was to start targeting, like, water lines, you know? Like, yeah, that is a way to put pressure on, I guess, but man, that you know, that is a really, yeah. Sudan is already getting from this. They can't get their aid. For crisis-stricken Sudan, the Red Sea is the sole port of entry for aid, almost none of which has reached the 25 million people in need of it since attacks began. Like, yeah, it's people. This is why it really frustrates me with when Twitter leftists say, like, oh man, dude, so you care more about, like, capitalism than, like, I don't know I don't know what I don't know what you think is happening here, but, like, this would be like if there was, like, a grocery store in a poor area and you blow it up and then people, like, starve or whatever, and it's like, ah, wow, you care that much about the business? It's like, okay, well, the business of trade keeps people afloat. I also just don't think this is going to stop Israel, like, at all. They don't get most of their trade from, like, south of them, you know? The vast majority of Israel's trade comes from Europe, and they can get those ports aren't closed. So that's the reason why. I don't think it's effective at bringing about an end to the genocide of the Palestinians, and I think it's causing, and has the potential to cause, far more harm, you know, all around the world. In today's world, international trade is kind of a necessary evil. It's not even a capitalism thing. Even without capitalism, like, international trade would still be a thing, you know? Like, that's... like, this isn't even, like, a trade or a greed or sorry, this isn't even, like, a money or a greed or a capitalism thing. Like, obviously, cost of trade would increase if you increase security, you know, travel distance, insurance costs. That's inevitable. That'd be the case under any system, you know? So yeah, that's the reason why. What if you just make ships faster to make up for the longer distance they have to go? Yeah, like NOS, like afterburners. That's true. That could work.
How terrible. But the U.S. would rather protect trade to Israel than protect Palestinian babies who are being bombed on the regular.
So this is what I criticized Kyle Kalinske for, because I feel like the take that I just gave you should be, I don't mean to come across as conceited or whatever with respect to Kyle, because I know that Kyle has had like a lot of really well nuanced takes in the past. Everything that I just said should be obvious. Like that should be a like day 1, hour 1, minute 1, second 1 thought. Oh, international maritime trade is being targeted. Well, that will lead to this. Like, that should be like a really straightforward, like one-to-one thing you jump to. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because a lot of people on the left, if people on the left were going to argue, like, you know, I think all of that is acceptable as long as we're doing this, then that would be one thing, because at least in that case, they'd be arguing from a position where they're acknowledging reality. But a lot of, I haven't seen anyone else in the left say what I've said, by the way. Not one. Not even in a like, okay, well, this is the cost we have to deal with kind of way. I haven't seen a single other person on the left, not one, say this. You know? Riverboat Jack has said it. Okay, I'm sure there are fine people who have said it. I'm not denying that anyone has said it. I'm just saying that, like, it's not a part of the conversation. I've seen people compare what the Houthis are doing to protesters blocking highways. I just wish people would understand what a fundamentally, like, conservative attitude towards politics that is. Like, these two things are kind of similar, so, like, it's just very, by conservative here, I guess I mean, like, thoughtless, or you know, like, think about it for a second. Can you think of a difference? I would hope you can. There are comparisons in the sense that you're, like, blocking a thing, but it's just, yeah, it's very reductive. I don't know. It's just a very at a glance. Like, think about it for a second. Do you think there's any difference between them? Can you think of them before I can? Also, Vaush, you called Kyle anti-Semitic because I did not call Kyle anti-Semitic. I said that that's anti-Semitic rhetoric. There's a meaningful difference there. If I were calling Kyle anti-Semitic, I would be saying that was like a component of his character or something that he was like attempting to do. He was willfully doing it, or it was like a sort of like underlying bias that influenced his takes. That's not the same as saying that a take is anti-Semitic, you know? Is it because the sea is wet and the highway is dry? Yes. That is the main difference. What happens when you point out these people that the Houthis are attacking indiscriminately, that they're not just targeting Israel? They won't acknowledge it. This happens every single time I get into a dispute with the rest of the online left. There's like an obvious factual error that you have to acknowledge on their part before you can even get to any of the analysis, but they won't even overcome that. They'll just say that I'm Hitler for saying that, even though the Houthis have said that. The spokesperson of the Houthis has said that they're targeting ships indiscriminately. And, but like, to acknowledge that, I've seen people call me alt-right for it. Literally, alt-right. Like, it's insane, you know? Just like, no thought. All right, that's enough pausing. Let's get through it.
Yeah, based as fuck, man. That's a beautiful man right there.
Some people took issue.
That is a beautiful man, but it's not a base take. It's pretty thoughtless.
With your comment, specifically Vaush, Zach and I responded to his video. He basically said that your commentary, in addition to other streamers like Hassan, for example, they basically said it amounted to like America bad kind of logic, where, you know, your whole commentary just boils down to anything that's against America and our foreign policy is therefore good. And Vaush even went so far as to imply that this was an anti-Semitic position.
We're not doing this on Israel's behalf. That's a borderline anti-Semitic talking point. Like, that's just fully like the Jews have like deceived the US into, like, that's just not, they're threatening international maritime trade. Also, Operation Prosperity Guardian isn't just an American effort. It's literally an internationally led effort. There's a UN condemnation that happened right before we began firing. Like, it's not just America, you know?
I was just wondering how you respond to that charge. And
so that's why I said I think that it's like borderline anti-Semitic rhetoric. The idea that America does anything for Israel or to protect Israel is like a very vulnerable talking point. It's a very, like, it's one of those talking points that bridges like very purposefully on the fence between being anti-Semitic and not being anti-Semitic. Largely because a lot of people do genuinely seem to believe that Israel is calling the shots in this engagement, which is just not accurate. I don't think that Kyle is anti-Semitic, though. I mean, if he is, I don't know about it, you know?
Kind of this increasingly prevalent logic that, like, real leftist foreign policy, in the sense that we don't agree that America should be the world police, like, somehow that's all of a sudden become America bad.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Wait, wait, what? This isn't about, wait, this isn't about America. This isn't about us being the world police. That's not even the thing that was being discussed. Also, I just said that Prosperity Guardian is an international task force. Why you just skipped over that?
To be fair, I think there are some people who fall down that rabbit hole where it literally does just amount to like America bad. That's not me. In fact, of course, I've taken heat for my position on Ukraine. When I say something like Russia illegally and offensively invading Ukraine is wrong and shouldn't happen,
Common
and it's a
sense,
war
yeah.
crime, and Putin's a war criminal. You know, when I say something like that, it should be very clear to people that I don't have this this position, which is just
Well, in fairness, you did say some other stuff about Ukraine, if I recall correctly, that led to some disagreement.
America bad in all instances. In fact, in that instance, I even supported initially some defensive weapons going to Ukraine so they can defend themselves. So that would be an instance of America through, you know, whatever pathway ended up maybe accidentally being on the correct side of an issue. And I'm willing to say that when that's the case. But look, I mean, I have to be honest. Of course, when you say something which sounds as controversial as the Houthis are correct, like you have to expect some incoming fire over that. So I have no problem with having incoming fire over that. But look, the point is actually very simple. I'm sure that this is being interpreted as like, you know, a defense of the Houthis in general and writ large. And the fact of the matter is,
I didn't think of it that way. Like Hassan is the one who's been doing the like, haha, Luffy would love the Houthis. Houthis are like normal people, just like us, haha, just like normal. Like Hassan has been the one who's been like committing himself to pretending that that bullshit. Yeah, Luffy. Yeah. I don't think Kyle did that really.
that's not the case. They're a Shia Islamist group. Of course, domestically, they're a menace. In the same way that, like Hamas, for example, yeah, they don't have a good position on gay rights. They want an Islamic caliphate to be a Palestinian state. I would like a Palestinian state that is not an Islamic caliphate, right? So, like, all those things matter, and we can point out those nuanced differences. But the main point, which is inescapably true, is that the Houthis stepped in and said, we see that Israel is carpet bombing innocent people in Gaza. They've killed 12,000 children and 28,000 innocent civilians. Our response to that is going to try to be to block ships that are doing trade with Israel.
See, like that. So this is what I mean. Even the Houthis have acknowledged that they're just blocking ships generally. You can literally see like where Israel's trade is coming from. It's not like like this is what I mean, you know? It's one of those like first points you have to get through. That, yeah, I don't know.
Now, maybe they haven't done it perfectly, and sometimes they get the wrong ships, and sometimes they use force when they shouldn't, etc. All that's fair. But that core thing of let's stop these ships from getting to Israel to try.
If it was just blocking ships going to Israel and not all ships, would their actions be justified? The problem is that even something like that can massively dissuade or have a chilling effect on international trade because of the way that shipping works. If you're doing a blockade, you kind of have to blockade the ports, not just go after ships that are heading to it. That's the way you're supposed to do it, because in that case, you are specifically blocking those ports, not targeting the ships directly. And then you could say like, oh, well, ships are going to like lie or mislead in their manifest, or there's a ship that's going to like drop off one box of like Girl Scout cookies in Israel, but then it's going to go on and deliver the remaining 5 trillion tons of stuff in Germany or whatever. Like there's a lot of stuff like that. It's one of the reasons why this is just an ineffective strategy. It's possible the Houthis are doing this because they genuinely care about Palestinians, but I don't really think that's true, because if that was the case, I think they could have had a lot more success operating diplomatically. Like, for instance, one really effective thing they could have done would have been use their relationship with the Saudi government and their recent attempts at talking peace as a wedge to pressure Saudi Arabia into pressuring the United States into pressuring Israel into letting up. America cares about what Saudi Arabia cares about because Saudi Arabia controls gas prices to a large extent. And the Biden administration really does not want raised gas prices right before an election. Like, that would be really bad for Biden. So it's possible that the Biden administration would be a lot harder on Israel if they were under the impression the Saudi government would be willing. But the Saudis don't give a fuck about the Palestinians. The Saudis don't care about anything other than oil profits. And I think the Houthis are pretty much like literally every other radical Islamist militia group, kind of crazy. That's just sort of what religious extremism does, I'm afraid. That it really divorces your interests. It's not just a religious thing. I mean, the Assadist regime is nominally secular, and it's not like they're super pro-Palestinian. I don't think the "a curse upon the Jew" guys are acting in good faith here. Yeah, I don't either. The Houthis are dealing with domestic failures, including an inability to pay government workers in their territory, leading to protests they've been repressing. Well, are you telling me that a martial right-wing group engaging in military action might be doing so to distract from domestic failures? You mean you really think they would do that just like every other time that's happened in history? You mean what Iran's doing right now to like balance out all of its domestic unrest by funding 9 trillion Islamic militias? Or what Saudi Arabia did with Yemen? Or what Israel is doing right now with Palestine? Like, you telling me they would do the thing that every other government does?
Try to put economic pressure on them to stop them from carpet bombing babies. That is the point. That is absolutely the correct thing. And what I go on to say in that video is, this is what the US should be doing if we actually cared about human rights, if we were actually against war crimes. This is what the UN should be doing. Step number 1 for Joe Biden is cut off the money to Israel. Step number 2 is cut off the weapons to Israel. Step number 3 is allow a UN condemnation through of Israel to let them know we are united and we're against you and you have to stop doing this. And then step number 4 is sanction the motherfuckers, blockade them, put economic pressure on them. I don't want to do regime change in Israel and send in SEAL Team 6 to put a bullet in between Netanyahu's eyes. That goes too far. I'm against regime change across the board.
I think regime change in this case would probably be very morally preferable to sanctions, but you know, whatever. Yeah, I mean, set like the sanctions. Yeah, well, sanctions only hurt the poor. Yeah, SEAL Team 6 only hurts the powerful.
But this is an issue where economic pressure. You bet your ass I'm going to support economic pressure, and I don't give a that it happens to be a Shia Islamic group that for whatever accidental reason ended up on the correct side of this. It's true, right? In the same, when I give America credit for something, does anybody say, oh, you're defending the terrorist state that did an illegal and offensive invasion of Iraq and did torture at Guantanamo Bay?
People do say this. All in fairness, yes, yes, all the time. People on Twitter are saying this. That is true. That is, I do hear this.
And did torture at Abu Ghraib and did all these war crimes. How dare you defend the terrorists? Nobody does that because they understand the nuance of it.
No. They don't. I heard people saying that when I was saying it was a good thing that U.S. troops were working with Rojava to fight ISIS because it was protecting like a communist or anarchist ally in the region. People do that all the time.
That sometimes America does up things, sometimes they do good things. Everybody accepts the nuance on this front.
I wish I lived in a world where that was true. That'd be so much easier, you know? Oh man. What ways of pressuring them do you prefer? I agree with everything Kyle said with regards to what America should do to dissuade Israel from their current course of behavior. I have said lots of stuff to that effect. I am on the books as not being a lover of Israel. Okay, this is something for which I have paid my dues. You know, it's not something I've kept very secret.
But you're not allowed to be nuanced about the big bad guys like the Houthis or any other group like that. You have to say across the board in every scenario, I condemn them, I'm against them. And it's just stupid. We're not children.
I mean, maybe that's the case for some people. It's not the case for me. I have given accolades to plenty of groups that I consider generally bad if they do something that I think is morally defensible. That's not really where my criticism is coming from.
Let's stop playing this game. He understands exactly what I meant. He understands I'm not anti-Semitic.
I do.
He gets all of that.
I say that.
But look, bottom line is, I think with a guy like Vaush, he's a YouTube master, so he does like the whole kayfabe thing and like, I'm the one voice of reason on the left, and I will set everybody straight. And that's his whole shtick. And hey, he's welcome to do that shtick, but let's not get it twisted about like if the statement was too far, if the statement was anti-Semitic. That's nonsense. He knows exactly.
I feel like when it comes to material outcomes, I've done more for Palestinian issues than almost anyone else in the online left, between me being a pretty aggressive advocate for them for the entire time I've had a channel to the like hundreds of thousands of dollars my beloved community raised. And I can do that for years and years, and then all of it falls to the wayside because I don't think the most stupid, disingenuous, ineffective strategy ever concocted being engaged in by like an Islamic militia is a good idea. Like it's incredible how quickly the tides turn.
Exactly what I meant. And I said what I meant, and I would say it again, and I'm right, and everybody knows it.
That is so important to say, right? That America does up shit all the time, and we all know it, and we all accept it, right? But when some other country amorphously does the correct thing, we'll have to find like an invalidating factor about them and be like, oh, how are you supporting terrorism? It's absolutely.
But I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Absolutely ridiculous. One kind of side question in regards to, obviously we're seeing untold horrors in real time when it comes to what's happening in Gaza for the first time. It's like, it's
By the way, I don't really blame Kyle for this as much because it seems that he's on their show and they brought the clip up to drama bait because they wanted to make a bit out of it. Kyle didn't like come on here with like, oh, let's talk about Vaush or whatever. They're the ones who are sort of orchestrating the discussion and bringing up the clip and stuff. So, you know, I don't expect him to have watched my whole hour, 15-minute video and seen that I also said that I don't think he's anti-Semitic.
it's pretty unavoidable, I would say. Like, I don't ever like to go and look at pictures of dead babies or like somebody pulling a dead child out from under the rubble or a miraculous almost dead child that has to go get like very painful surgery with no anesthesia. Like, you know, all these horrible things. I don't like seeing that shit. I don't think anybody likes seeing it, but it's everywhere, right? TikToks of it all. Like, it's broadcast to the entire world. And I can only believe that that's reaching people, right? And that the tides are turning. I've seen more and more regular people say, oh, we should call for a ceasefire respectively, right?
Cliff with those groups. There was one.
Okay, it looks like the rest of this is on just general stuff, so there's not much for me to comment on. Okay, yeah, well, Kyle might be speaking broadly about all his detractors here, Vaush, not just you. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's probably going to be like a general point being made there too. Just like, oh man, very frustrating at times, I have to say. Can you summarize why you didn't mean Kyle was an anti-Semite? Because he's not an anti-Semite. It's pretty straightforward, I think. I mean, I am not privy to the, you know, the caverns within his mind. I certainly don't think he is. Can you go hard in the Vanguard boys? KCJ from LI, all you care about is drama. I don't get anything from going hard against the rest of the left. You know that, right? Everyone says that all I do is bait drama for views. All I do is lose subs when I argue with other leftists. I haven't cultivated a community of like nihilistic drama farmers. This isn't DGG. I mean that unironically, not as a petty dig. Like, this community doesn't exist as a kind of like separate cult that's meant to sort of distinguish itself from broader, you know, like, oh, this person's dumb, only we're good. I say I'm the only leftist. Because it's true. But you should ignore me when I say that. There are other leftists. You know, a better world is possible. When I go after other people on the left, like, as much of a wall as has been built by others around me and them, you know, as much as I am sort of like, what's the famous horror short story? The Count of Monte Cristo, is that one? You know, as much as I've been Monte Cristo'd by others, like, there is a lot of overlap between myself and other leftist content creators, and whenever I beef with them, all I ever do is lose. You can look, it's very, like, the numbers aren't hidden. I don't want to go hard against anyone. I just want people to be sensible. That's all I want. That's all I've asked, you know? None of this changes my broader underlying, you know, like, all of the great evil here is what America and Israel is doing in Palestine, you know? The issue with the Houthis is tangential. Like, the Houthis aren't strong enough to meaningfully destroy international maritime trade. I think their strategy is ineffective and destructive and potentially lead to a lot of harm, but like, they're small player in the matter compared to the actual powers that be here. Nobody else comes even close to Israel and America right now when it comes to like evil being engaged in the region. I'd much rather talk about that, but then every time, you know, you say one little thing, objectively correct thing, you should network a little more so such spats are more cushioned IMO. Yeah. All right, moving on. Not seeing the Monte Cristo reference? Count of Monte Cristo, because they wall them in with bricks. Wrap it up. You mean the cask of Amontillado? Yeah, then why did people say, I said, is it Monte Cristo? And people said, yes, Amontillado. That's the thing. Yeah. Count of Monte Cristo. Then what is Monte Cristo? Okay. This is me, okay? I'm this humble fool chained to the wall, all right? And the rest of the online left is building this brick wall. Monte Cristo is a sandwich? Yeah, that sounds about right. The Count of Monte Cristo is a story about vengeance. I mean, technically this is too. It's just like imagined vengeance, right? It's just the being Patrick Bateman pilled a little bit. Cask of Amontillado, so chilling. Yeah, true. Anyone ever heard of this indie writer called Edgar Allan Poe?